Welcome everyone to the second game of the tie breaks of the finals between Wei Yi and Javokhir Sindarov. This is an incredibly tense game. In the first game, Wei Yi blundered massively and was almost going to lose his game against Sindarov. But the Uzbek youngster could not find the winning move and the game ended in a draw. Now we are in the second game and this one is huge because whoever wins this will win the title. Of course, in case of a draw, we will move to 10 plus 10 segment. But with the finals and just the two players in the hall, the tension is very high and the players are prone to lot more mistakes than usual. As always, we see Wei being super calm. Javokhir also looking quite calm there. He's so young, he's just 19 years old. And there we have a handshake between the two players and the clock begins. 15 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. We have e4, e5, knight to f3, knight c6 played, and we have the Italian on the board with bishop c4. Knight comes out to f6, d3, and bishop e7. A fighting line played by black. Doesn't want to play bishop e7. Castles. Doesn't want to play bishop c5, by the way. Knight comes out to c3. And now d6 played here, just opening up the way to the bishop. A4 gaining space, and bishop g4 played here by Sindarov, where he asks the question to the bishop. He takes, queen takes on f3, and now knight to d4. He comes back, queen d1, c6 played. Now the funny thing is, this line was played by Sindarov with the white pieces. So he's actually aware of this. He had played it in the Samarkand Grand Swiss Tournament. Knight goes to e6 and rook e1 played by Wei. We have queen to c7. Now the bishop comes out to e3 and b6. Look at the speed at which Sindarov is playing. Has 16 minutes on the clock. Wei takes a good 2 minutes and plays queen to f3. And Javokhir brings his rook to d8, centralizing now. h4, threatening to play h5, h6 here. Queen comes to d7, protecting the knight. And queen to h3. It could be very nice for black to get the d5 break, but it's not so easy. The bishop would come at g5 at the right time. Takes on e6. Now that the rook is on e8, he wants the f file to be opened. The rook is a bit misplaced, so f takes e6 taken. And now knight e2 played. Black pushes the pawn to d5 in the center of the board, and Wei defends the e4 pawn. He's not touching these pawns because that would help black. Goes rook to e8. And now the pawn pushes forward to h5. You want to play h6, so Javokhir stops it. And guys, look at the time. Sindarov has 10 minutes. Wei has 4 minutes on the clock. Rook e2 played. He wants to double his rooks perhaps on the e file. Rook f7. This is a very, very slow moving game, but it's also pressure mounting. Bishop d6 on the board. And now Wei can go for the bd2, bishop c3 ideas. He plays his bishop to d2. He wants to put it on c3 and put pressure on e5. Rook f8 played to put pressure on the f2 point. Bishop c3. Now take and take on e5 is the threat. So knight h7 with the idea of knight g5 is very interesting, but Javokhir goes d4. Bishop d2. Now this is kind of become more static as a structure. However, he attacks now the pawn on a4. Wei defends it with b3 and a6 played. He wants to go b5 and c4. That's the plan that black has in this position. And now knight jumps back to f1. Maybe he wants to go knight h2, knight f3. Queen e8, trying to eye the h5 pawn when the rook moves. The rook goes to a1, and Sindarov now thinking he goes rook e7, a good move, attacking the h5 pawn. Knight comes back and defends it. At this point, if Sindarov wants to repeat, I'm pretty sure Wei will repeat, but Sindarov wants to fight. He defends the e6 pawn here. And now knight f1. He also takes into control the a6 square when he goes b5. So ab, the rook can no longer infiltrate here. Great fighting chess being played, but Wei now can get a slightly better position. He goes knight h2, fantastic move. Idea is knight f3, putting pressure on the e5 pawn, but c4 played. Takes. I think white is better. Just go knight f3. White is putting pressure. He takes on c4, takes here, and now Wei makes an error. He goes knight g4, not the best move. Trading these knights is to actually black's advantage. c3 played, he takes on f6, and now rook takes on f6. You will see that white has a very solid structure, but the c2 point is weak, and he goes rook f7 with the idea to trade on a7. f3, opening up the bishop's path to h4. Rook a7, offering a trade of rooks. You could trade rooks, but Wei decides to not trade. He goes rook d1, and now the c2 point is soft. He goes rook a2, attacking the pawn on c2. Bishop goes to h4. And now rook to b7, eyeing the b2 pawn. Queen g4 played. And he goes queen e8, trying to stop the queen from coming into g6. Now king h2, improving the position. The game is so tense because both players here are fighting. Queen f4 check could be an idea here to trade off the queens. He goes g3, stopping it. But now can black enter in? Yes, he enters with rook b2, rook c1, slightly passive. King h7 played. And now how does Wei improve his position? He goes king to g2. And Javokhir goes back with rook. But now white has a improving move. Rook f1, rook f2, defend on f2, c2 and push f4. Yes, he goes rook f1. An excellent move. And rook b7. He pushes f4. Fantastic move. Suddenly white is having the initiative. Takes e5. What a move. Now bishop takes e5, rook e5, rook c2 could be good, but he goes bishop c5. He misses it, and rook f4. White is on the offensive now. Rook ef2 would be an insane move. He finds it. White is winning. Look at Wei's time. He has 14 seconds. 33 seconds for Javokhir Sindarov. And Wei plays this with 1 second on the clock. His customary 1 second stuff. He's so good at it. Rook b1 is coming in. But a check can be good here. He gives a check. King g8. And now queen g6 is actually a better position for white. But no. With 1 second on the clock, Wei makes a mistake. g4. Can Sindarov go? It's equal now. He gives a... No, he doesn't give a check. He plays rook h1, attacking the bishop. And king g3 played. Rook f1 was much better there. But he goes rook e1. The pressure is huge. Wei finds rook e2 with 8 seconds. He now has 18 seconds. Javokhir down to 15 seconds. He takes on e2. Queen takes e2, and now an amazing move. Bishop e7, offering a trade to the bishops. Wei takes, queen takes, and now the only move to hold is king g2. But Wei blunders rook d4, and look at this. He had 1 second again. Wei finally botches under pressure, king f4, and now the winning move, rook e1, with the idea of queen g5 is game over. Can Sindarov find it? Look at the calmness on his face. And amidst all the pressure, he finds the winning move. Javokhir with nerves of steel goes in, check, king goes back, and now boom, another check. He's losing the rook here, and Wei has to resign this game. Javokhir Sindarov has done it. He's the youngest World Cup winner ever in the history of chess. What a game, what a play by the youngster. The 19-year-old Uzbek youngster is the champion. Wei, well, he played brilliantly throughout the tournament. This was his first loss, and that was good enough to send him to the second spot. He played amazing, incredible chess on 1 second, but today was not to be. Javokhir Sindarov is the champion. I want to draw your attention to the key moment in this game. The position is equal, and bishop e7 was a brilliant move by Sindarov. He took here, queen e7, and now Wei had to find the only defensive move, that was king g2. It's not easy because when you spot queen h4, you think that game is over. A check is coming here, a check is coming here, it's finished. But actually speaking, there's an insane defense. Can you find it? Well, it's rook f8 check. Now if king h7, queen e4, white wins. So king takes, and now you give a check, and wherever the king goes, it's a draw by perpetual. Look at this, king f7, check. King g8, I give a check again. King h7, I give you a check again. King h8, a check again. And in the end, the game is drawn. As it turns out, with just 1 second on the clock, Wei takes on d4. But this was the final blunder as the queen comes in, and I love this move by Sindarov, rook e1, and he finds this check, and then with this queen e3, he picks up the rook and the FIDE World Cup.